I am over the moon excited to have such an incredible, incredible leader here with me. She's a new thought leader, and she is and has been awakening consciousness on the planet for a very long time. She's a New York Times bestselling author of many books. She's the pioneer that brought the chakras to the Western world in a way that we could understand it from a healing and psychological perspective. She's got a Ph.D. in psychology, and she also empowers women through her incredible work and her new She Rises Oracle deck, which is a new thought leadership Oracle deck that empowers women in roles of leadership that are sometimes outside of the box, that we don't give that kind of empowerment to. She Rises Oracle deck is incredible in the new thought leadership movement of feminine empowerment. I love the She Rises deck. She's also doing a training with the She Rises deck. And she's also written a book recently called Goddess. And I actually got to write a story in that book. So that was a lot of fun. I've got Anodea Judith here with me today. Anodea, it's so great to have you here.
Schamet, it's wonderful just to touch base on the same lily pad here as we hopscotch through the universe. It's really wonderful. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Anodea Judith has been committed to awakening consciousness on the planet and empowering not only women, but people to step in to their healing, into their transformation. And I love the work that you're doing on the planet, bringing heaven to earth. Thank you so much for all the work you do.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, you've been a part of it. So,
Yeah, yeah. So, the little backstory here is I got woken up at 4 in the morning by my spirit guides that said, you need to contact Anodea Judith. And I was like, huh? Really? Why? I didn't know very much about Anodea at that point. I'd been living on a rural farm in New Zealand raising kids. And all I knew was that she wrote a book that was about chakras that I liked. And so I went and I looked at the book and I was like, okay, Anodea Judith. Well, I'm going to send her an email. And so I sent her an email and said, I think we're aligned. I think we're meant to like work together or something. I don't know. I'm teaching chakra yoga and you do chakra work as well. And I didn't know she did chakra yoga either. And then I find out that actually she's the pioneer and she's been doing this incredible work for years and years. And so it was very, very magical connection to meet you, Anodea. And I feel like a soul connection, like a soul sister connection with you.
yeah, well, we're cut from very similar cloth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Here
Yeah.
on this planet, awakening consciousness. So,
Right.
my first question for you today is, what does leadership mean to you?
I like the phrase that said, a good leader does not create more followers, they create more leaders. And
Mm,
that's really what leadership means to me. Someone that empowers others, not somebody that's out in front telling everybody else what to do. That's a very masculine style. But somebody that supports those who are, coming along and empowers others. So that's what a good leader is to me.
oh, I love that. I love that because it's not what we think of. We
Yeah.
think of that person right in the front, telling people what they should do.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
in a way, we were just talking before the call about, how it is in the world today. How many followers do you have on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, on whatever? All about the followers, as if that is the measure of leadership. I would say, how many leaders have you created? That would be my
Mm. I love that so much. We do live in a world where it is about those leaders and followers, but actually, I love that. So, my next question on that similar line of thought is, what does old paradigm leadership mean to you?
Well, old paradigm leadership is really based on masculine models, and those models came largely from the military. The commander in chief, the executive who executes, the general, the sergeant at arms, they're all like someone out in front telling everyone else what to do, who, exhibit blind obedience to the orders because that's what they're supposed to do. And, it was the way they held order in a masculine military kind of situation. But then we applied that to culture, and it doesn't work because it actually disempowers people. And so in that, and in, what we know as the masculine takeover of the old goddess religions and really supplanting the goddess till she was a word that no one ever spoke anymore, we know that many of the archetypes of leadership that were feminine were completely lost. So I like to think of old paradigm as being that masculine, and it has its place. It is good in certain situations for getting things done. It's actually good for a military model. If someone has an objective and we're going to go in there and we're going to fight these people, they need everyone to be unified and aligned very quickly. They can't say, well, let's sit around and discuss it for a couple days, and that's both the fault of it and also, the power of it. But really, servant leadership, leadership of love, leadership of collaboration, cooperation, leadership that ignites the creativity of the people you're working with. Telling them what to do does not ignite their creativity.
Absolutely. I love that you just brought some positive attributes to the current form of leadership. It's not, nothing's all bad, is it? There's always.
No, it's actually very effective at getting things done.
Right. Absolutely. Love that. And what does new paradigm leadership mean to you?
New paradigm leadership is more collaborative. It says, how can I get the best out of my team? How can I ignite really the creative possibilities of everyone I'm working with? How can I make you feel empowered? How can I allow this to be created in a way that it goes on its own and doesn't have to be led by, the person leading all the time. So it's really a heart-based model of leadership, and it's an entirely different kind than what we're used to. And that's why it's so hard for people that exhibit this to get elected to office, for example, because people they don't recognize it. Especially for women, they say, well, she could never be a commander in chief. It just doesn't compute to have a woman in that role. And yet we need feminine forms of leadership that we can relate to and go, oh, yes, that is a kind of leadership, but one that we have not recognized or honored.
So do you feel like we're still learning what that looks like?
I believe we are. And the fact is that form of leadership is not as nice and neat, and it doesn't get things done as quickly. And I think that when you have the collaboration process, when you finally do institute something, and I like to say institute rather than execute, then everyone's on board because they've had a say in the matter. And you get more buy-in from everyone on your team if you've taken the time to hash out the different ideas and argue and present different viewpoints and then finally arrive on the same page. You have buy-in from everybody that was part of the process. If you just tell people what to do, it's quicker, it's more efficient, but you don't get full buy-in of the people. And so they're not really fully showing up.
So true, isn't it? I know that with raising teenagers.
Yeah, it's very much the same. Yeah.
And do you see yourself as a leader?
I have not necessarily seen myself as a leader, but I know that others do. So I have stepped into that. And I really think that the turning point came for me in 1985 when I was ordained as a priestess. And I was given permission by my spiritual community that I was part of to take power in a form of leadership that was feminine in nature. And therefore I could take power, and I was granted that power by the community, and I could take leadership, but I could do it my way. I could do it in a way that was in harmony with my own feminine nature. And I never was attracted to the business model. I never wanted to be a CEO. I wouldn't be good at it. I don't have a very strong executive function that makes spreadsheets and agendas and plans and all that. That's not how my brain works. So I wouldn't be good at that kind of leadership. You know, people say to me all the time, why don't you run for office? Why don't you run for president? Oh, come on. You know, I would not be good at that kind of leadership. But I do have a leadership that inspires people. And that's what I love about it. They're inspired to be more, to do more. People tell me every week that I've changed their life.
Yeah, I actually am one of those people that go, come on, Anodea, run for president.
Yeah, not going to happen in this lifetime and too checkered a past, but
I think it's a very challenging role to even attempt to step into currently. I mean, we've seen how women have been treated,
oh
and
yeah.
it's yeah, I wouldn't want to do it either. But wow, do I have a lot of respect for the women that are brave enough to attempt to step into that role, like Marianne Williamson. Wow, I look up to her. She's really
Yeah.
paving the way
Yeah.
for women to empower
And even
themselves as to step into those roles.
and in New Zealand you had a powerful woman leader for a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've had two female prime ministers, and
Yeah.
yeah, so we're a little bit ahead of the rest of the world here. I think we actually women got the right to vote first here in New Zealand as well. The women are very strong in New Zealand. Yeah.
That's why you're there.
My soul was definitely drawn to New Zealand. Yeah, I was a little girl and I couldn't even read yet. And I looked at this picture book with rolling green hills and sheep. And I went, oh, I'm going to live here one day. And then I ended up, falling in love with a New Zealander and ended up being in New Zealand. So
Yeah.
my
Well,
soul definitely chose to be here.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so when you hear the words awaken the new feminine paradigm, what does that conjure up for you?
Well, it conjures up a different way of doing things. And there are qualities to the feminine that we have lost that are sorely needed in today's world. Beauty, for one. You know, I mean, we have these, you go downtown in a city, there isn't much beauty there. You know, it's efficient, it's cement, it's hard, it's, high-rise buildings, but it hasn't been built for beauty. It hasn't been built for ease. It hasn't been built for pleasure. That what if people were really enjoying themselves? And I don't mean just, getting drunk on a binge or something, that kind of pleasure, but like if life was pleasant, you walked outside and you enjoyed what you could see, you enjoyed what you were doing, you felt good in your body, you wore clothes that were comfortable and that you felt beautiful in. I mean, bringing beauty, bringing pleasure, bringing compassion, bringing more of the yin, which is really needed. I say we're really suffering from yang anxiety,
The
and
anxiety, I love that.
we need to go yin side a little bit.
We need to go. You're so good with words. I love that. You're always weaving words into meaning, and I love it so much. You're a wordsmith, a word
Yeah.
alchemist. You should write books, Anodea.
Oh, gee, what an idea. Maybe I will.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. It's so true. And, the next question is, what do you think about power? And just to go back on what you were talking about before, about, how you don't see yourself as a leader, but other people do see you as a leader. And then you've stepped into that. I was like that for a long time too, where, not wanting to acknowledge that power or that leadership because of how misused power
Exactly.
and leadership has been. And it wasn't until I was ordained as a priestess in Glastonbury in 2004 that I really started to step into my power in a different way. So there's our connection again. It's not just through the chakras. I think the big connection between you and I is the goddess, is the priestess, is the feminine empowerment and like reclaiming what power means and what leadership means. And we are all still figuring out what that means. And so, what does power mean to you?
Well, I think of the ancient models where the king was married to the priestess, and that was said to be the ideal relationship. So the king ruled over the outer world. He ruled over the kingdom, where were the troops going to go and how were the crops going to be handled and all the mundane stuff of life. But the priestess ruled over the spiritual planes. And she was the one that went in her meditations to connect with the goddess and her tarot cards or, her divination practices or her fasting and, channeling or whatever she did to get a deeper truth and tap into a spiritual power. And then she would come and tell the king, you know what? I don't think it's a good idea to invade that kingdom over there. Or I think that your men are really stretched thin. You need to put a little more attention to them. And I think that, this is happening. And if we don't watch out, there's going to be an epidemic that's going to come through and people are going to get sick or whatever that was. Then the king ruled well if he honored that power. So I think women rule with more of a spiritual power. And it is harder to quantify that. It's harder to measure it. It's harder to prove it. But I think that it is equally powerful.
I love that so much. And I can apply that directly to my life.
Mm-hmm.
My husband is my king, and I
Yeah.
am definitely his priestess.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he calls me his queen, of course, but I am the priestess in the family. I'm the one that says, "Oh, honey, I think blah 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 blah," and he goes, "Oh, yeah, no, thank you for telling me that." He really honors, the oracle and the divination that comes through my channel, which is, I think, the way it really should be, in that sacred bonds of marriage between men and women. So I love what you just said about power. That is so applicable for me in my life. Thank you so
I think
much.
I think the challenge for women is to learn how to rule on the outer planes. They go more naturally to connecting on the inner planes, but the challenge is for women to learn how to do the spreadsheets and make the agenda and run the company and all that because it doesn't come as naturally to us. The challenge for men is to honor these inner planes and to let women actually lead them and initiate them and bring them into that and to allow that, much as women have allowed men to lead us on the outer planes.
So true. It's so true. And I love how it can kind of interchange as
Hmm.
well, because I have been with my husband for so long. He is now at a stage where he wants me to drive, where he
Yeah,
was always the one that wanted to drive. So he's
yeah.
gone more into his yin, and I've gone more into my yang. We kind of swap back and forth, which I think is a healthy balance as well.
I do
Um,
too. Yeah.
No, I love that answer. Thank you, Anodea. I love the way that you think. I knew I was going to enjoy this conversation.
We need to get the world to do the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, studies have shown, and I talk about some of this in my She Rises deck. Like, for instance, when I talk about the peacemaker, I have each archetype is described from I, she, and you, and the she part is more the didactic information. And so I did some research. When women are part of the peace process, it lasts longer. It's more accepted by the people. Women are better at brokering peace, and yet they're not allowed to be on, how many women peacemakers are there in the Russian-Ukraine war? They're typically not allowed because they're kept out of that whole military thinking. But what they can bring is a sensitivity of what the people need, and they listen to both sides, and they broker peace. When women are part of companies, and there's more women on a board of directors for a large, financial company, the company performs better, has better stock performance, has lower employee turnover, and makes more money in general. Women, when there's more gender equity in countries, like more women in positions of power, the country is more peaceful. There's less gender violence. They spend less on military. They get less involved in violent skirmishes. The level of violence goes down just by having more women in power on the board of directors or, in the cabinet or the parliament or whatever the government form is. The more gender equity there is, the more peaceful the country is. So we have these statistics that show when women are there, the outcome is different because of what they contribute. But what they contribute can't be measured in the masculine paradigm, you know?
So true. I mean, I've been in New Zealand now for over 25 years. I also lived in Sweden for almost 4 years, and the women are very strong and they are in positions of political power, and it is more peaceful. It is very evolved. The consciousness is
Right.
definitely higher.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm, yeah. So I see a direct connection there. Thank you. What an amazing observation, and that we have statistics to back it up as well. Like this is the reality that we need to all be considering.
That's
So
right. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And, I wish we could tell this to the Taliban. I wish we could tell this to the current US administration, that wants to wipe out women from all their databases. And they're actually erasing women who have served the country, served it well, just because they're women. They're erasing them from the history books, they're erasing them from the databases.
And this is still happening.
This is still happening. Yeah. There's a backlash right now against women that I didn't see coming, and I thought we were beyond that by now. But I think there's a reason for it, and the reason is for women to really wake up and say, okay, we can't sit around twiddling our thumbs. We have to band together. We have to take action. We have to stand for the values that we know are important to society. Because if we
Well,
don't, society's going down.
this is what happened to me. I was perfectly happy to be in my academic cocoon and do my psychology training, and my spirit guides were like, "Nope, you have to do this leadership summit. Like this is really important because we have the risk of going backwards and we cannot go backwards. We have to keep going forward. And it's about awakening women into their power. And when we have these conversations, and you don't know who will be listening to this, it's going to be online. So the more it gets out there, the more we are empowering women to step into their power. We're doing it. We're doing the work, Anodea. We have to keep going.
We have to keep going. We have to make it possible.
Yep, our
Yeah.
work is not done yet. Martin Luther King Jr., he said, the work's not done yet. I'm like, hallelujah, it's not. We're going to keep going. We all have a dream and we have to actualize that dream and make it reality. And we are doing that by having this conversation right now. So, on that note, who are your favorite leaders and what energy do they embody that you admire? Who are your
Well,
most admired leaders?
you mentioned Marianne Williamson, and so she comes to mind immediately. And what I admire about her, one is her courage. I mean, she gets mud thrown at her for everything you can think of, and she has still stood up there and spoken for what is right. And she thinks outside of the box. She's not just towing the party line and we'll just do this a little tiny bit differently and all that. She's saying, no, we have to look at this situation. This is serious. She doesn't mince words. She is not shy to say what is true. And I believe that the way she speaks has an awakening power. It's like the satyagraha of Gandhi, the truth to power. So she's definitely one of them. And I'm working in an organization called the Founding Mothers Movement. And that was founded by Laura George, who is an amazing leader. And I've been working with this organization for a year and a half. I'm actually one of the core people that has helped create it. And, but it's mostly been her baby. And I'm just watching how she puts together this whole movement of women leaders from around the world. And, we've written up a proclamation of our demands for peace and for gender equity. And we, have all different parts to the organization, and how she's just kept at it and brought people in and said, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this, and keep people believing in the power of it. So she
Wonderful.
inspires others. Yeah.
She inspires others. I keep hearing that theme, inspiration, inspiring others. So I guess that's one of the core values you have in New Paradigm Leadership is inspiration.
Yeah. And what is inspiration? The word comes from to inspire, like respiration, to breathe in. So the people who inspire take time to reach out into the spirit world and download, you know,
Mm.
and that is a really essential thing. And it's what I've been missing in my life lately with so much work. And I am just dying for, literally for some space to really commune so that I can access that. And when we get too busy, we lose that connection.
We get caught up in the
Yeah.
next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So
Yeah.
inspired action
Yep.
is very important New
Meaning
Paradigm
you
Leadership.
taking time to breathe in, to take a breath. That's where inspiration comes from.
Well, that's the divine feminine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, beautiful. And are there some other, what is my question here? Qualities, right? The qualities of leadership.
Well, I think humility is one. And we expect leaders to know the answer all the time and immediately. Like political leaders can't say, I'll get back to you on that. They can't waffle. They can't change their mind. They can't say, I said this last month and I've considered all the data and I've looked at all the research and I am changing my mind because this is a better way to go than that. That's not allowed, in our leadership. But I think humility is the knowledge that we don't know. And even if you think you know, you have to have room for the fact that you might be wrong or you might be off, so that when you're not certain, you keep an open mind to listening to the guidance. And then you can be informed. So I think humility is an important one. And that way, people don't think you're lording it over them, masculine word there, uh, and they trust you more. Heart-centered, that you're actually compassionate. You care about the people who are working in your company or, on your team or whatever it is. You care about the outcome. You care. Centered leadership, listening, the ability to listen, and really get the essence of something, of what someone's trying to say, and honor it and say, yes, I hear you, and maybe we can incorporate that idea, or maybe not, but I hear you, it's important. So the quality of listening. I also think, and this is especially difficult for women, good boundary setting.
Yes.
And we talk about all this soft stuff of compassion and humility, and and women can be too subservient in their leadership style. They need to take their power,
Mhm.
and but they also need to set important boundaries.
Absolutely. It's such a big one for me. I've been working on my boundaries for a while now, but wow, it is an important part of respecting oneself.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Mm.
And you just get so overloaded if you don't put boundaries out, and you don't do well because you're doing too much or you're getting overrun by other people's needs and you're not allowing yourself to go to source. So boundaries are really important.
Yeah, I've learned a lot about my own personal leadership by doing this leadership summit and having these conversations. But of course, when we have these conversations, this is where, I always grow a lot during these times. And I, just did editing. I had 4 editors on my 2 oracle decks and working with them. And they're saying da 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 and da 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 da. I had to, really witness myself and my boundaries, but also being open, like what you're saying, being humble and being open, but empowered at the same time. So not giving things away, but being open to the gifts that would emerge from the help and the support that I was being given. And it was an incredible dance. And so everything that you're saying, I'm like, oh yeah, I just went through that. And it's so beautiful when you can be humble and empowered at the same time.
Yeah, that's a rare quality. It's a rare quality. And I think women have more of a chance of doing both. But The empowerment is more of the challenge for women, not the humility.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I agree. But when you can have that soft, vulnerable empowerment and them
Yeah.
together, that's where the magic is. And I have to say, I think that's what awakening the new feminine paradigm means to me, is exactly what you were talking about, as being empowered, but also being open. And, it's a real balance of the masculine and feminine.
Hmm.
Mm. So, this is the big question, the biggest one of all. But if you were made the leader of the world, what would you do? Where would you start?
Oh my goodness, my goodness. Well, I would start with communication and media because I believe that people actually want to do the right thing and that we mostly want the same things. We want a good world for our children to grow up into. We want peace and prosperity. We want health. We want a beautiful environment. I mean, I think most people would agree on these things. The methods they might disagree on. So I would get fundamental, really a compelling storyline of what we can become at this time on the planet. Because here we are at this pinnacle of evolution, and it's like we're throwing it all away when we have the tools to become an incredible species and take an evolutionary leap into the next level. And so, but we're not, leaders are not articulating that vision. They're, sort of more of the same. We can tweak this just a little bit and tweak that just a little bit. No, I think we need something altogether new. And to really inspire people of this is what we can create together. This is where we're at, you know?
Absolutely, 100%. And do you feel like you're doing that?
I feel like I have been to some degree, and I have been so incredibly busy with the mundane tasks that I haven't had time to do some of the things I feel called to do, like write blogs regularly about the current situation and where we can go. I think my writing is one of my ways I can take leadership. But as I say, I'm just really craving some empty time for my next stage of leadership because I feel really quite exhausted.
Yeah, I have noticed this about you is it comes in waves that you do take that time. I've watched you go in to your cocoon and connect, and your antenna goes up, and then you get filled with this inspiration. And then you go and then you do the thing. So you have that feminine and then the masculine, you create it, and then you get tired right at the end. I think you're in just like a natural cycle of creation,
Yeah.
and then so you're getting ready to go in for your next birth of
Yeah.
creation.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's important to highlight that with creative people like us, we do put ourselves out there and it can be exhausting. And I
Very.
think that is part of it. Like we can't always be the butterfly. We always want to be the butterfly, but we can't really always be the butterfly. So it sounds like you've been butterflying out there in the world, doing all kinds of things. She Rises, the Goddess book, now this amazing leadership collective that you're part of. And now you're gonna get ready to go into another cocoon. And then what's gonna emerge out of that next? We don't know, but it's exciting. Yeah,
Yeah, I
wonderful.
mean, I think people have this projection on leaders that they can give indefinitely and that, they can tap on them. Well, you're the leader. I can get this from you. I can get that from you. And, and we're not infallible. We're not just something we have limits, and
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. And so are there any last and final pearls of wisdom?
Well, I would like to talk about some of the archetypes of feminine
Oh,
leadership because
yeah.
that's really what we've lost for women. And many of those archetypes have been lost completely, like the Oracle, the Priestess. And, you are the Priestess in my deck. That was the card. I would have to dig in to get it. But the Peacemaker, these are roles that women have served in the past, the midwife And the midwife is not just one who helps a woman have a baby. She's the one that also helps other people midwife their dreams. Like a coach is a midwife. She's helping her clients, birth their dream of writing the book or the making the company or the movie or whatever. That's being a midwife. So to see that as, she's not the one out front that gets all the credit. She helps her client write the movie and they sell the script. The client gets the credit for that, but the midwife has a leadership role in that. Yeah. So those are some that have been lost. Some of them are newly emerging, like the activist. In the world of activism, 60% of activists are women. And along with that is the trailblazer. So women who have gone before us have been trailblazing to allow us to live the life we have now, because women before us have, stood up on the podium and proclaimed the truth and fought for the right to vote and fought for various rights and dignities and equalities. And so the trailblazer is one that's, emerging now. The diva, which is the, hot, sexy woman like Taylor Swift that is on stage, really changing lives and creating her own economy almost, or, some of the other divas that have really been able to embody the goddess in a way that was acceptable when the goddess was completely lost. So these are some that are emerging. And then there's some that are, just taken for granted, like the mother, The mother is such an important, integral role in society. If children don't get good mothering, they don't grow up to be good adults. And it all starts there. So when the mother is not empowered and supported, we lose something vital. But what are we mothering? What is the mothering quality? The mothering quality cares and nurtures and is patient and is the teacher. Mothers were the first leader we ever knew.
It's true.
So, the mother, the maiden, the crone, which is the aspects of the triple goddess, they've been taken for granted. So we need to reclaim that. We need to reclaim the sanctity of the maiden so that she's not sexually assaulted and she can be her beautiful self and be her innocent self and shine with that without having to worry about, is someone going to take that light from me? The crone, we don't respect older women, if they're not bearing children anymore or they're not beautiful anymore, they're just discarded by society, but they hold the wisdom. So we need to reclaim some of these. And then there's other ones like, the woman that comes into money, I call the benefactress, because studies have shown that when women come into money, they're more likely to help others with it. When men come into money, they want to buy a company,
or
but
a boat.
Women, yeah. And so when women come into money, they want to help others. They become benefactors, philanthropists. So there's many different ways to look at women in these leadership roles. Another one is the shepherdess. The shepherdess is the one that makes sure everyone is taken care of. She leads from behind, not from in front. She makes sure everybody has the meeting notes and everybody has water to drink, and the school kid that is left behind gets some attention, and she's bringing up the flock to be whole. It's a very important leadership role, but we don't call it leadership because she leads from behind. But it's a very important role to have on any team.
And you've got the lover in there, which I think is fantastic. Yeah.
Definitely leading us in the erotic and romantic and love realms, really. So we have the lover, and many other archetypes.
Yeah, I really love your deck for that reason, is bringing attention, awareness, and power to so many positions of leadership that, we overlook, like the mother, for example.
That's right.
Yeah.
And just trying to find your priestess card here.
Oh,
to show. Here it is.
I was very honored when you asked me to be in your deck. Oh, there I am.
There you are. A little bit redder hair, but this is the priestess sitting on her throne and communing.
Yeah. And I love that photo because it's really me sitting on that throne. My husband took it, and yeah.
Yep.
Aww.
And the priestess card in the tarot has, the lions on the handles of the chair.
Exactly. I know. We found that throne and I brought Gray to it. And I was like, look at this. He goes, oh, we have to have that. I said, do we now? He goes, oh, yes. I says, is it my throne or yours? And he says, it's ours. I said,
Oh,
oh, good.
I used to have a chair just like that when I was ordained as a priestess, when I lived off the grid in my alternative community. Yeah,
Wow.
chair
Wow.
with lions on the handles, and I
Lots of
sat it.
synchronicities everywhere.
Yeah,
This is the magic of the universe. The universe really does bring us together. Birds of a feather, we fly together.
that's
And
right.
we're doing the work, and you're doing incredible work, Anodea. And I'm excited about what emerges next. Is there anything that you want to add of what you're working on out in the world? Do you have any
Well,
freebies for anyone?
let's see. Right now, at the moment, I just came back from a long trip, and I don't know what's going to come next. We'll have a She Rises leadership training that will start in June,
Oh,
for
great.
5 weeks online. So I'm trying to get people to recognize these archetypes in themselves and ignite their superpowers and take leadership. When I used to offer courses in leadership, women to go, "Oh, I'm not that. I don't know if I resonate with that." And so I'm really trying to change that and say, yes, but you can do it in a different way. And these are powers that live within you. They just need to be recognized to be ignited.
Yeah, well, I started up a sacred divine feminine leadership course, and I had got the same thing. Women would
Yeah.
say, there's part of me that's attracted to it, but I'm not going to sign up because it was just too much for them to take that responsibility and stepping into that leadership. And I think that things are starting to shift.
Hmm.
But yeah, and I really do think it's because of the misuse of power
Hmm.
and all of the strife that we've seen in the world. It actually puts people off leadership. And
Hmm.
even with, asking certain people to be in the summit, oh no, no, I'm not a leader. No, I don't want to be. I said, what? You were a leader. No, no, no. And it was the shadow side of the leader that puts people off. And
That's right.
so, I'm very happy that you are addressing this through your She Rises cards. And so, this training that's coming up, and those of you that are listening, I have done this training. It's fantastic. I love this work. I've brought it back to New Zealand with me, and I've done leadership circles here that are so empowering for women. So make sure you do this training. It's fabulous. Is this one through the Shift Network?
No, it's through the Sophia Institute.
Okay,
And right now, right now we're just formulating the actual dates and times.
great.
It'll be up on my website, She Rises Movement, pretty soon. So,
Okay, great. Well, when you have that link, share it with me and I'll add it to the summit.
yeah. So
Yeah.
SheRisesMovement.com is where you can learn more about the archetypes and the Founding Mothers Movement, which is foundingmothers.world. You can join, you could sign up. If you have
Great.
an organization of 25 people or more, if you're a leader of that, then you can be a delegate in the once a month Women's Congress, where we decide what our game plan is going to be and how we create a movement. And we have probably about 250 organizations that have joined the movement so far in less than a year. So we're really moving
Wow.
along.
Oh, that's great. Can you tell us a
Yeah.
little bit more about that, Anadea?
Well, it is really designed from Barbara Marx Hubbard Wheel of Co-Creation. So at the core is the peace room, and there's ideally 11 positions in the peace room. I serve as the representative of spirituality and religion, but there's arts and culture, and there's health, and there's democracy and leadership, and there's different aspects of the peace room. And then from there, we have these operational circles that is how do we bring what the peace room decides is going to be the game plan out into the world. So we have a media circle that is creating all the media, that's our Facebook posting and all that, and our videos. We have a proclamation circle, which was mostly political people and lawyers that wrote the proclamation, which is our demand for equal rights and an international Bill of Rights for women, and really our demand for peace, which is really our ultimate goal, that women are the peace bringers. And so that was the proclamation circle. There's a partner circle that is getting other organizations involved. And we have men in it as well. It's women led, but it's not women only. We really value the contribution of men that have joined us. And we're not an organization, we're a coalition
Oh,
of peace groups, environmental groups, women's groups, and spiritual groups. So if
oh,
you fit into
wonderful.
those four categories, you're eligible to sign your group in, and you can find out really, you can just, go to the website foundingmothers.world.
Yeah, and I'll
And
put the link below this video as well. Everything will be right here. So you can
yeah,
just click and go and check it out. Sounds amazing. Oh, it's a women's empowerment movement. I love
yeah.
it.
And the Congress is made up of the leaders of these organizations. So if you have an organization, you can become a delegate, and then they have voting power and they can make proposals and work on different things.
I'm just having a funny moment with seeing Barbie, and like the women in power and that whole world. Like when I saw it, I had to see it again, and I saw it twice because I was like, oh, that's new feminine paradigm leadership. That is the real world. It's the priestesshood. I had
Yeah,
so many parallel moments, and that's I'm just going back to that at the mo having a flash of that with your organization. So,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, well,
Yeah, well,
thank you so
it doesn't
much.
take place in a man cave. Or
No, no, it's not in the man cave.
the
Well,
manosphere.
the
Yeah,
manosphere. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm. Well, thank you, Anodea. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all the work that you do, and sending you so much love and so many blessings in everything that you do. And looking forward to you going into your cocoon because every time you emerge out of the butterfly state, there's something new and amazing that you're creating.
I hope so. I hope there is something else, but it's just I need a breath. Yeah.
Yeah,
And for the
exactly.
work you're doing and continuing to get this out there and your dedication. And yes, you are a leader and you're a shining example of feminine leadership.
Oh, thank you, Anodea. Mm.
Namaste.
I know what you mean about getting tired though. I was so tired after Awaken the Goddess, but then I was like, I'm not doing another one of these. But then when your spirit guides tell you this is what you're doing and you can catch your breath and you can, butterfly out
Yeah,
again, then
yeah,
it happens.
yeah, yeah.
But I think this is a good reminder for all of you that are listening right now. If you are tired, remember to go in and cocoon. You don't always need to be the butterfly. You
No.
can be in your cocoon and take a breath.
And then you do it from a place of allowing, which is a lot less work
Yeah.
than pushing.
And
Yeah.
that is the sacred divine.
Yes, it
And
is.
this leadership summit took me almost 2 years to finally do it because I had to go in and honor my sacred divine feminine energy. And so it's come from an aligned place of leadership, and I'm feeling really good about
Good, good, good. Yes.
it.
Well, congratulations. Mwah. Much love to you.